Okay, so catching up from the 27th till now, what we've learned: when you're going to sleep, if you count up, you'll actually hit like 5, 6, 7, and then you won't be able to go on, and then you'll go to sleep. Very similar to languages like English or Espanol or Francais, you can actually switch to the sleep language node and it'll let you get to 7, 8, 9, 10, and you'll fall asleep, so a little further, a little stronger effect, quite a bit stronger effect. So thanks to the seaweed we've introduced, gut is feeling flatter and flatter. And when you give yourself up to God, God gives you hints. God says, hey, keep going into this world. We go deeper into this world. It creates another node that goes into, for instance, the gut. If the gut's reacting to the issue pleasure, and pleasure is the driving force to resolve and reverse the gut inflammation and stop the gut or reactivity. And spirulina and microalgae are the two most common cyanobacteria, of which spirulina exists, and microalgae, of which chlorella exists, are the two most common toxin producing categories among the three, the third being macroalgae, which is wakame, nori, kelp. Now, spirulina and chlorella themselves don't necessarily produce that level of toxicity as some of the other cyanobacteria or dinoflagellates. And so it's important to keep the dose somewhat down in case there are toxins that we have not yet studied. We understand BMMAs are low, the microcysteines are low, but just in case, it's good to listen to the body, how it responds, and keep the dose low. And you can actually build up resistance to toxins and get the beneficial effects over time if you keep the dose low enough. They've done this with arsenic back in 1900s. Sometimes going down deeper in levels for the gut heal takes a few iterations, so maybe you do one session and the gut feels great, but then 20 minutes later you need to do another session and they build on each other, so it's like waves, and the more waves, the more additive effect and the greater the amplitude, and they stick for a longer period of time. Allergens, especially, for instance, there are some individuals that are allergic to the content in spirulina over time, especially in ancient contexts, that had to do with BMAA toxicity, and the allergens were to, for instance, the cyano and phycotannins. And same thing for shellfish. There are shellfish poisons. People would have a shellfish allergy, and historically it seems like it's a protective mechanism. This also ties into allergies. If you take a very small dose, and this is what they do with peanut, pretty much allergen reintroduction, take a very small dose, and over time they get accustomed to it, and people with allergies to peanuts can actually take in 5 whole peanuts and even more because their system is retrained. This is also how arsenic would have been dealt with back as a toxin. You can actually up your tolerance over time. My experience is when you're recalling a lot of data, especially in the Mind Palace, very similar to how Sherlock Holmes portrays it in the show, where you have rooms or different places in your head and you're trying to recall anything touching your head, like headphones, helmet, people. It typically has a negative effect, and you actually feel like sore, like there's a stressor, you get headaches easier, and so going forward I will not be using any more headphones during that recall session or in general. So sea plants at a normal to low dose seem to bulk the stool, and if you're constipated, to go normally. If you have diarrhea, to go normally, as long as you're getting enough water. Sea moss, although Star West Botanicals is normally great and excellent and probably one of the best in all herbs and spices, some spices or herbs or plants don't hit, and so Maine Coast sea vegetables is the best that I've found so far in everything they sell. They excel. And sea moss, Irish sea moss, they do have availability on that, and the reviews for Star Wars Botanicals were mainly that it's salt. There's not much sea moss, so we're moving to Maine Coast sea vegetables at this point. So the more relaxed you are and flow you have, you can actually get into reality more. So focusing on, for instance, the screen or the keyboard. If you're stiff, even with trying to experience reality and enjoy it, you won't get nearly as many benefits as if you flow. You can go deeper, and then there's an added benefit if you enjoy. So whatever you're doing, if you enjoy it, not only will you not be stiff, and you will flow, but you will also get even deeper and stay in it for longer, which lets you go even deeper. And that's if you enjoy it. So for this, if you push through your feet, you actually get a release of, yes, gas, but also your intestines clear up, and you also feel lighter, but you also feel more calm. And the reason for that is there's a quick parasympathetic because of the pressure redistribution, and that's why orthostatic syndromes like POTS, they actually may pass out when they stand up, but that's because of the shift in blood, and then it takes over the parasympathetic system will shift over to the sympathetic system, and then by walking, it later usually improves parasympathetic tone due to salivary release. So bottom line, it helps to stand and walk. So ancient cultures and civilizations did resolve alcohol, sex, drug, PTSD, and trauma typically through getting the individual from, like, do we have it here? Fasting, which includes no sex, sugar, salt, any baths or vagus nerve stimulation, going into some expulsion of bad chi, injection of good chi or spirits, and then trying to get into this deep trance-like state and fixing the problem there. So addressing it, fixing it, and usually the deep trance-like states would do this on their own with a strong cultural, like, community presence, and, like, for instance, humming, swaying, that would not only activate the vagus but just the entire central nervous system. And then usually what you would wrap up with is you externalize it with friends and family, and you stay deep in this world through meditation. So, which would be the opposite of a trance-like state. So you get out of the trance-like state and you're grounding intense grounding. So that's bottom line what happened. Not laughter. Laughter is typically, yes, communal, but not covered in the below. So it seems like at night there's 3 different types of inflammation. One is the gut, where it's reacting gas, nausea, farting. The other one is on the arms and legs mainly, but it's pain. It's like growing, imagine DOMs from working out, but excessive and localized. And then the third one is any rashes on the skin, mainly on the face, and that burns. And so those 3, by doing the pleasure heal, going deep into several levels, and then healing the channel, whichever of the 3 it is, actually helps maybe 30-40% or more for the other one. So by doing each, and usually all 3 are done at least once at night, you can definitely take the inflammation down drastically, as opposed to doing just one, which may not target directly the others. When you're warming up, the best is to do the movement you're going to do, and slight variations over and over at light, slow, and then heavier, faster. Cloves and oregano did work to clear out some SIBO, but it also aggravated the gut. So EMDR will probably lessen the aggravation on cloves and oregano next time. We only took it once. Flow state is when you are not stiff, but flow into reality, and then typically through enjoyment or some music, I found something rhythmic, you get into a infinity type state where everything slows down and you have hyper focus on whatever you're doing, and you become very efficient. You don't move as much to get something done. You can recall things that are extremely inaccessible otherwise. In that flow state, you try to stay in it for as long as possible. By focusing on that rhythm. So too much iodine actually burns the gut and you'll feel digestive discomfort. That just means lower the sea vegetables that are high in iodine. Spirulina makes you extremely hyperactive, and so to the point you will not think before doing. And so having less spirulina shortens not only the amount of time you do that, but also lessens, not so much, but the hyper reactivity. If I'm skipping over certain sections, it's because we already talked about them. But here, for instance, where we EMDR'd certain foods, this is like a superpower. What we do is we set Theta Drift by Sky Cascade, 6.56 hertz. It's on their album. It's a song. We set that, and it gets us going into a rhythm that we go left to right with our eyes and then sway our body gently but quite quickly. And again, that's 6.5 hertz, so that's per second. And when you do that, you get into a very calm and relaxed state, and then that shoots you to, for instance, if you reacted to a food or reacted to an individual and you had an autoimmune reaction, or just an anxiety reaction, it automatically changes that past experience and your present experience and all future experiences of that. So for instance, when you EMDR'd hemp seed, which my gut started to get stiff when I ate hemp seeds, it made the gut much lighter and actually diffused that afterwards. But then the next time I ate hemp seeds, it did not get nearly as stiff. Sometimes repeating EMDR sessions helps reinforce that over and over. It's almost like real world, in this world hypnosis. And with enough, you can retrain your system to not react, and even better, to enjoy whatever that was. This works with individuals you have interactions with as well. We're trying to vary as much as possible the seaweeds by low iodine so we can consume more of it. There's actually this is putting your shoulders back, your hips back, and your back a little curved. That will help you compress further in, because if you're rolled forward, you can't actually get as in as if you go back with your shoulders and your legs, if you're having Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and you're hyperextending. EMDRs are having very beneficial effects. Something that's happening with the seaweed is we're future projecting a lot more, which means we're just thinking about the future, what we need to do now to accomplish future goals. Even if it's as simple as, what do I need to prepare for meal prep so I have meals ready tomorrow, today. Another thing that's doing, I believe it's the seaweed because it's been the main change, is you are now internalizing data into kind of a mental map, including what other people say, and you're asking a lot of questions to fill that map out and ask more questions. And that way you communicate with another individual by listening to them intently, by looking at them, and using the body, but as well as words, to ask and confirm that you've received the information and internalized it, and then ask some more. And that's been great at not only getting information, maintaining it, but also using it for better outcomes. And the interactions go much more smoothly, and a lot of good things just start happening. So, for instance, where there would mainly be a no, maybe it turns into a yes, something that would help out everyone. And that's mainly, again, I think the seaweed that's helping mental cognition, then is leading to things like listening more, because you're able to listen more and internalize things. Anytime you get a glass jar from Whole Foods, whether it be for olives, or pickles, or sauerkraut, or yogurt, if the glass jar is the right size, it's easy to keep it and just remove the tag. And that way you stack up glass jars free of cost very quickly. This was a Jujutsu Kaisen episode where if you come close to death, you can experience energies and kind of feel them. And that's true. A lot of individuals in the chi space do note that when you're closer to death, you experience more of it, and it sticks with you. So trauma victims early on in life actually have a lot more nuance as to, oh, I can tell this person has an aura, or they're very positive, they're not so positive. And apparently there's a way, if there are negative chi or forces, you can have a cursed object that dispels those chis or reroutes them, and that's proven in anthropological studies that ancient cultures did do this through, for instance, dolls that they put into a box to contain the evil spirit that was within that doll, and so it would keep others out, but it was sealed in a way that it would not hurt other humans. We are now keeping EMDR lists of what you need to EMDR. Right after the meal, we play the 6 hertz in EMDR, and it calms everything. We're eating everything from the semi-vegetarian diet for Crohn's. When it comes to seaweed, either have it in the list or we're already eating it, except hijiki, which is toxic due to heavy metals levels, unless it's cooked very thoroughly. Even loud noises that scare you and cause reactivity, you can EMDR them away. We're trying less saltless ancestors actually only had 768 milligrams of salt on average, and a lot of them had less. You can conserve salt, but the problem is when you go too high, then the body has trouble dealing with all that salt. There's a lot of pains that are now going away extremely quickly. They would have lasted maybe days, and now they're lasting minutes to seconds. Probably due to this Nori, as I'm feeling it after I eat it, and I'm now up to 6 sheets. Sometimes EMDR, when you do it, it just goes where it needs to go. For instance, if you reacted to a certain person or a certain noise or a certain food, it will go there automatically, as long as you focus on that rhythmic sway. And you can look at a list too, but it usually autopilots. It makes sense that when you're injured, you undergo fasting because you can't get food per our ancestors, and you undergo autophagy, which helps in the inflammatory response because you get exactly what you need and recycling all the old damaged cells and replacing them with new cells at the very beginning, and then refeeding causes those new cells that are excellent in quality to grow fast. So seaweeds, even if you eat seaweeds all day, they don't have that much salt content, and trying to adjust for the iodine content so that you're not overdoing it on the iodine, even eating as much seaweed as you can with not overdoing iodine, so maybe limiting iodine to 1,000 micrograms, even 3,000 micrograms, you would get only a few hundred milligrams of salt. And raw seaweed is usually how ancient cultures, like the Japanese, had it, pre-cooking, and raw tends to preserve polyphenols, and the enzymes, vitamin C, and so raw is probably better than roasted in most contexts. Oh, and also the omega-3s. EPAs don't get oxidized. So if you can find raw sheets, those are the best. In other news, we did order IQ Air. We have an air filter, you can see at the bottom left. And so a V2 filter, since it went red, and you have to order as fast as possible to prevent the other filters from taking too much of the load. We also uploaded a tab session manager, and the tab session manager is free for everyone. It's on GitHub. This is where it is. You can see here, and this is what it looks like when you follow the instructions and set it up. You can go here, and for anything, you can copy the URLs. So this copy is actually all the URLs that are currently open, or you can export them to a text file. And then, so for instance, if you do that, it will export it to this, and then you can import. It defaults to new window or your current window, the pasted URLs, or you can choose a file and then import from that file. And what it does, the reason this is here and you can't import directly from clipboard is because Edge has security over the clipboard and accessing your clipboard. So you can read from Edge into your clipboard to your computer, but you can't actually access your computer's clipboard. And so this is a quick way, and then you import pasted URLs. When we click that, it's actually going to go to a new window and load all of them. And that way, you, at any time, can do that quickly. For instance, if you have preloaded URLs that you're trying to do like a bunch of AI models that you are using, and you want them all to be new, fresh chats, then you would, again, go here, and then I do import from selected file, and I have those URLs as fresh chats, so it loads all 10 or 12 tabs that I need in one go, every time, every day. Hopefully this helps you. That's the goal. Thanks.